Hello and welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be working on a 1978 Honda XR75. Let's get into it. So up first, you're going to see me take apart the carburetor for the 75, which you'll see right now. The next thing we're going to do is take apart our rear suspension, which has multiple forms of slop. Alright, let's get this thing propped up. That buzzing you're hearing is the ultrasonic cleaner with our carb parts. Alright. Alright, I'm going to take our rear wheel off first. Get our wrenches on here and undo our lock nut. Loosen up our tensioner or adjuster. Next thing I'm going to do is bend the tabs back for our cotter pin, and then a pair of side cutters or dikes works really well for getting these out. Just kind of rock it. Well, if it's been used multiple times, sometimes that breaks off, which makes it even easier. At this point, you just pull it through, especially if it's broken. And now we're going to break this nut loose. This nut is a 17 millimeter, and get your socket on there, and you're going to want to get a 14 millimeter wrench or other ratchet or socket on the other side, because they like to spin. So you get that, hold that still, and then just loosen this guy up. Alright, got our crown nut off. Just take off our adjuster and make note of what sort of spacers you have and where they go. I like to just lay them down so you can see how they went, and just slide them back on the axle once you get it removed. Now, sometimes you can get lucky by just pushing the axle through, pulling it. Doesn't seem like that's how this one's going to want to go. So, just grab yourself a little hammer, give it a couple taps, and then if you pick up on the wheel, it makes it a little easier to slide it through. And mine's still being pretty stubborn, so you get a little punch, put that inside the hole for your axle, and start giving that taps. I think I might just have to yank it out from here. Yep. Oh. There we go. Alright, drop our wheel down. Something you should do before removing your axle is break this nut loose here. Or you can do something that I'm going to do and just pull your brake assembly out of the wheel. Now I have all of our adjusters and spacers on my axle, and I'm just going to set this somewhere with the wheel. Alright, now I'm going to break loose the 2 bolts holding our shocks on. And these are 14 millimeters. Or 2 nuts, I should say, because crown nuts. Sorry, acorn nuts. Oh, look at that. Now we can just slide our shock off. And that's a sign you need new bushings. Especially when you can just pull them out. And then you can just put your hardware back where it was. Once you have this last shock about to be pulled off, support your swing arm because it's going to want to fall down. Unless you have this here holding it in place. Now I'm going to remove our chain guard. And this is 3 10mm bolts. Sorry, 4, yep. You have one here, one here, one here, and one hidden under here. Okay. So these 3 bolts were all the same length, and there should be one short one that goes in this front hole so the back of it isn't interfering with the chain that runs through here. Next, I'm going to remove our chain guard, oh,
I guess kind of a slider. Oh, wow, that's rough.
what the bolt looks like from the chain rubbing on it. Alright, now I'm going to remove our brake stay from the swing arm. And we have a little cotter pin, a nut, which the bolt runs through the other side.
There it is.
Now we're on to removing the swing arm. So you're going to want to get a wrench on the other side to hold this nut from spinning, but mine was already cracked loose, or this bike was already cracked loose, so I'm just going to take it off. And it looks like this isn't even the right bolt, because I don't think this spacer is supposed to be here. So looks like we're gonna have to tap this one through. Hopefully this doesn't become really tricky. Oh, nice. Looks like I got lucky on that one. Alright, we got it removed. Well, looking at the mess we've made, I think it's time to clean up some tools and parts. Now we got all our tools cleaned up. We'll set this down. Don't think we have to worry about falling over easy anymore. A little bit later, we got some parts. We have shock bushings, wheel bearings, and swing arm bushings. Alright, we got our upper bushings pushed in. I'm going to leave the bottom ones, I think. And I'm going to clean up these shocks a little bit so they look a little bit more presentable than that. Alright, everybody. We got the shop organized a little bit, so we got a little bit more space. You got the front and rear brakes for a 75. Probably just do the rears and see what the fronts look like. And if they don't look great, we'll put those in. They were a set, so whatever. We got the engine, but there was pretty bad shipping issues, and it's probably dropped. So the bearing pushed out this side of the case. It's got a bunch of slop in the crank now. Camera focus. So we're gonna have to use the old bottom end and put this top end on it because the other one's completely shot. The lobes or the bearing spots for the cam. I guess not bearing spots because it just rides in there. But these are all lobed out and worn. So we'll just put that top end with our old bottom end back in this, do our brakes and bushings, and then this should be ready to roll again. Then after that, we will, I guess I'll tear apart this bike, my 100. I guess we're going to repaint the whole frame. And I got to do spokes on here. And we got our XR75 carb over here cleaned up. And then I have my 250X carb over here. That was in the ultrasonic bath thing. And then after that, I guess we'll go back to the YZ. Or possibly same time as that. For the 100, we'll do our crank, put our new rod on there, rebuild that, and then hopefully get the cases together. And then that could be set in the bike, and that's one step closer getting this thing finished. We got our brand new shoes on. Let's see what we can do about the bearings. Alright, we got our wheel bearings out. We have our brakes on, and we have some parts cleaned up a little bit. Cleaned up our sprocket just a little bit, and I cleaned up this plastic piece behind here. Now I'm going to take the front wheel and tire off and see what the brakes look like in that and put them on. Got our front wheel off, so now let's change our front brakes. We got our new shoes on, so let's put on our front wheel and see if they need any adjusting. Alright guys, a little bit change of plans. I'm going to take these forks off and take these dust seals off and put on these boots from my XR and put on these blue boots from XR80 forks on this bike because I got to tear this the whole way apart anyhow. So I'm just going to do a time lapse of all that real quick. I have a tip for you guys. If your fork boots ever get stuck up here on your forks, on this part here, grab yourself a rubber mallet and just give it a couple taps on the on each side, and it should like go down and then break free, so you can get those off pretty easy. And then the bottoms, just hold the lowers and grab right here and just twist them off. Sometimes you have to just go the whole way off in one direction. So we'll drop the forks on my 100, put these on here, and put the black ones on the 75. Alright, we have our blue fork boots on the 100, and then we have our black boots off, so we can put those on the 75. Just want to take a minute to show you guys how bent these forks are. Look at that. Alright, we got our fork boots on, so now let's put our front wheel and tire back on, get the brakes hooked up, and see how well they work. Alright guys, I think that's going to be it this week for the XR. We got new brakes in, fork boots on, got new bushings in our shocks, got our wheel bearings knocked out, our swing arm cleaned up a little bit, my XR fork boots on it, That'll probably be one of the next things after we get this a little bit more wrapped up. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and see you guys next week.